Amber.
It's okay, that's
Daniel Fernandez, 35. I'm a comedian and a father of cats. I'm from Bombay and Goa. Grew up in Bombay for a bit, then moved to Goa when I was 13, then came back to Bombay. And I've been here ever since. I've been doing stand-up for 8 years now. This is my 9th year. I think this was like my second or third performance ever in Malad. And so this Veer Das's Amateur Nights, they were doing that. And I had like 2 minutes. I had to perform 2 minutes and I killed so hard. And I was like, if I can do this for the rest of my life, I'll be really happy. But that's the moment I knew, like, I want to do this. I really like, they just crowd, just seeing that crowd going crazy. It was like having a superpower, you know. It's total strangers just laughing at stuff that you're saying. So yeah, that's when I knew. 10 years ago, I'd probably tell myself, you're not going to believe what's going to happen in the next 10 years because right now you're preparing for this whole MBA to get done and you think you're going to be in marketing. That's not going to work out for you, but you're going to be doing something you never thought imaginable. And it's going to be great. 5 years from now, damn, you should have stuck to marketing. Trusting the process. So I think that's when you're in show business, your graph is never going to be like anyone else's. But at the same time, you're always going to be comparing yourself to everybody else. And sometimes you're going to be ahead, sometimes you're going to be behind. So it gets very frustrating at times. When it gets to that stage, I'm always like, yeah, trust in the process and just keep hustling. Art is perception that's communicated creatively in a way that everyone infers it differently. That's when it's done well. When I'm writing a show, it's sort of like a movie that I'm seeing in my head that I know what it looks like, I know what the characters are, but it's not clear. It's hazy in the beginning, but the frame starts clearing up as I think about it more and I decide, okay, I'm going to use this part of my life in the show. I'm going to talk about these things. I'm going to include these people, and then once that frame becomes clearer, I write punchlines first. So I think of a funny line and I like it, and then I work backwards and build a premise around that single punchline. And likewise, then I start having bits, then I start putting them all together, and it's very raw. Then I'll do trial shows to see how much what I thought was funny to everyone else. And then I'll do a bunch of trial shows, and then I'll go do an all-out tour. But the show for me is never finished. Even when I film, like my last special, when I filmed it, I'm like, okay, this is where it's at now. I'm happy. It's about like 99%. It's ready to go out. For me, creatively, it's always a constant process. It doesn't stop. So you don't do 9 trial shows and like, yeah, the show's ready. It's never ready. So that's the thing with comedy, at least. I feel that it can always get better. You know, it's like, whereas if you're any other form of, like if you're a painter, once the paint dries, that's it. That's the painting. With comedy, you have the privilege of going back and changing things, you know, removing stuff that's not required, rephrasing a lot of your jokes. So I think that's a very beautiful process. Yes. Initially, I wouldn't be too hard pressed. Like if you're not from a Bombay or a Delhi, it's fine. If you can still get up on stage somewhere and just get a feel of how comedy is, and if you like it. Because I always say comedy is a lot like getting into a relationship with someone. You can't just go out on a date once and go, yeah, I can see myself with this person the rest of my life. You have to go on many dates, so you have to do many open mics. And then sometimes you just have that moment where you know, yeah, okay, this person is someone I can be with. Likewise, you'll have that moment in comedy where you go, yeah, this is what I want to do. And when you have that moment, then you have to, depending on where you are in life, what's the financial blanket you have, then you decide if you want to move to a city like Bombay. But at some stage, if you really want to get serious about comedy, you have to be here. I think in America they have New York and LA, so there's always like this one focal point in every country where show business is booming. So Bombay is where it's at. So if you get to a stage where you really want to make it or try to make it, then you need to be here. Infrastructure. to begin with. So if I'm talking about comedy specifically, we need good, serious venues. If you look at the venues we have today, just it's catering to a certain kind of crowd that does not have a lot of disposable income. There are so many people out there who have serious money and they want a good night out, but they don't have a place to like take their wives or girlfriends to, or their friends out to, you know. So what's happening right now is whatever we are curating is pulling in people who are like, yeah, I've been following this guy's work, so I don't mind if the infrastructure is not that great as long as I get to watch him. But that's 10% of your market. 90% of the market out there, they go to much better establishments because the place looks great, the crowd is nice, they feel like, you know, it's worth dressing up for. Comedy right now, live comedy is an event, it's not an experience. So if there are people who are watching this and if they were around when the Comedy Store started in 2009, when you went to watch a gig at the Comedy Store, it was an experience. You know, from the time you entered in, just the whole setup, the lights. So I think as far as comedy is concerned, producers really need to step up their game. I think we need some serious players in the business, people who know how to run a business, how to make a comedy club profitable. When a venue is really good, the audience will go, you know what, I don't care who's on the lineup, I know I'm going to have a great time. So then you've got producers going, hey man, we just need for 4 dates from you, just bring your best 30 minutes and come. But right now that's not happening. Now if it's a famous comic, full house, non-famous comic, 3 people in the audience, not helping. I did. I've been on stage ever since I was 6 years old. So whether it's dancing, elocution, plays and stuff like that, I've always been on stage. I used to be in a band. I was in 3 different bands for a while, and then comedy happened. So by the time I got to comedy, stage was already like home, except the first time I ever did stand-up was the most nerve-wracking experience ever, because this time there was no backup. It's just one person. There's nobody to pick up any slack that you might drop. So for me, I was like, okay, if I can do this, then I can do anything. And so that first time I ever did stand-up was the most nervous I've been. But outside of that, yeah, stage has been my second home. Everyone has their own market rate. You decide what you're worth. So if you're a younger comic who's just, you know, broken into the scene, and someone's called you for a gig and they're saying, you know what, hey, we've got this is the budget, will you do it for this much? It's your choice. So you say, yeah, fine, I'll do it for 50. But if there's somebody who calls and say, hey, we're looking for Daniel Fernandez, we want to book him for our event. Now you know they're looking for you, not for a comic. So maybe I'll say, yeah, now I'll charge you $100,000 or $150,000. So it's a negotiating game, and again, it's something that you'll only learn on the job or hands-on. So that's why I say, hold on, don't be in a rush to get managed or signed. You know, if you learn to negotiate for yourself, tomorrow when someone's negotiating on your behalf, you'll know if you're getting your money's worth. Because I know some artists who've just never negotiated in their life. So tomorrow if an artist manager says, yeah, you're getting 2 lakhs, like, okay, I'll take it. But what if you're worth 7? Or what if the job could have gotten you 7? So it's important to learn to negotiate. So I think picking up this skill will help. So we all started, initially when we started doing corporate gigs, we used to get paid 20 grand. But that's how we all started. It started with 20, man. Like, I mean, my first corporate gig was 20,000 rupees. 2012, I think, 8 years ago. And I took it happily, But then later on, we all started saying, okay, let's see how much I can ask for. So then we pushed it to 50, to a lakh, lakh and a half, 2 lakhs, 3 lakhs. And then, yes, once you get to a certain stage, then you have numbers that help you decide your worth. So a brand comes to you and says, hey, can you unbox our product? You're like, yeah, I've got like 500,000 followers on Instagram, so this is going to cost you so much. So then there are metrics in place. Initially, there aren't any metrics, so you decide, and there's always going to be you already realize there's always be somebody who's ready to undercut you. So whenever you give a quote, there is a chance that you won't get the job because somebody else would have quoted less. It's a lot like gambling, So whenever you've been called, know that 5 other guys have also received that same call. So you say 50, somebody else says 60, one guy will say, हाँ मैं 20 में करेगा. Then that person has to take a call. Okay, am I going to choose quality or compromise on quality for price? I think what Steve Martin said really helps in this space as well. He said, become so good that they can't ignore you. So just focus on being like, and this is very cliche, I know, just be the best comic you can be, write the best joke, but it's actually true. Like if you're so focused on, these are my jokes, this is what I stand for, this is my voice, people will find you. They'll be like, man, we'll pay you whatever you want. Like that's what you want to get at. You want to hear that phone call where somebody goes, you name your price, we've got it. So we all know what everyone's getting for OTT work versus say a college gig. I'll now mix my quotas. So the college gig, I know what the median income for everyone is. So I'll be like, yeah, this is what I. Whereas if it's an OTT thing, and if I'm using the exact same jokes, it'll be 10 times more. So yeah, know what everyone else is making. See where you rank or stack up against all of that. Decide your own rate and then build on that. I want to see the industry get to a stage where comics can make a living out of this without having to be famous. Where there's at least 5 comedy clubs in every major city. I want to see this industry at a stage where most shows on the weekend are all sold out. So if you don't book, you're just standing outside like the Comedy Cellar, hoping somebody cancels so you can get in. Like for me, live comedy is where my heart is. So because that's where the magic is, you know. So I think if we can get to that stage, we will do well.